Good evening. I declare the agenda briefing open at 6 p.m. Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting today is being held on Wajak Noongar Budja, and I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I thank all past and present members of the community that have supported the city to better understand and value Noongar culture within the city of Wanneroo. I invite you to bow your head in prayer. Lord, we thank you for blessing our city, our community and our council. Guide us all in our decision-making to act fairly, without fear or favour, and with compassion, integrity, wisdom and honesty. May we show true leadership, be inclusive of all, and guide all of the city's people and many families to a prosperous future that all may share. And we ask this in your name. Amen. Please note that the audio-visual proceedings of tonight's meeting will be live broadcast online with the exception of matters discussed behind closed doors. The broadcast of the proceedings of the meeting can be accessed live and on demand through the City of Wanneroo YouTube channel. Item 1, attendances. We have 2 requests for electronic attendance this evening from Councillor Phil Bedworth and Councillor James Rowe. Item 2, apologies and leaves of absence. We have a parental leave of absence for Councillor Marizanne Moore. We have a leave of absence for Jordan Wright from the 11th of May to the 10th of June. We have an apology from Councillor Vin Nguyen and an apology from Councillor Hugh Nguyen. Item 3, deputations. Deputations must relate to a report on the current agenda briefing. A deputation is not to exceed 3 speakers in number, and only those speakers may address the council members. Speakers of a deputation will collectively have a maximum of up to 10 minutes, dependent on the number of deputations received, to address the council members, unless an extension of time is granted. A deputation is to be in the form of a statement, and no debate or discussion on the matter is to occur. Questions from council members relating to the subject matter should be reserved until the administration has presented on the relevant report during the meeting. However, a point of clarification by a council member on a specific statement may be permitted. Public questions are not heard at an agenda briefing meeting and will be heard at an ordinary council meeting. The following deputations have been confirmed, and each deputation has 10 minutes to address the council members on their nominated items. Please keep that in mind when making your deputation. Our first deputation is on the item about the Public Health Plan 2026 to 2030, PTO 10326, response to petition, request delay to Neerabup Resource Recovery Precinct, and the speaker is Ingrid Martin. Ingrid, would you like to take the podium and just give us the name and suburb that you live in? Thank you.
My name is Ingrid Martin and I live in Carramar. Thank you for listening to me tonight. I want to start by noting how many significant items Council is being asked to deal with tonight and again on the 26th of May. It's a heavy agenda and it's a big ask for councillors and for community to properly read, understand and respond to everything put forward. So my first one is item 4.1, draft environmental and sustainability strategy 2026 to 36. This strategy is presented as the city's long-term direction on waste and sustainability. But as I read it, a lot of the wording sounds like marketing slogans rather than a practical plan. And in several places, it doesn't line up with actions and the future that are also before the council. Let me give you a few examples. So words like whole of systems thinking. The strategy that actually says these challenges are interconnected: climate, water, energy, biodiversity and waste. And the action should be coordinated. But there is no meaningful consideration of the health impact on future generations. Then another one is precautionary and proactive. The strategy says acting early reduces risk and reduces risks and prevents environmental harm. But extensive land clearing continues across Wanneroo and the scale of native vegetation loss is unacceptable. Equity. The strategy says sustainability benefits must be shared fairly, and no community should be neglected. So what does equity look like for East Central Wanneroo Ward? A waste transfer station is proposed with pressurised doors to contain odour at entry level. Yet the master plan says the roof will open every 15 minutes, described as mechanical ventilation. That would release concentrated putrid air and contaminated particles into the atmosphere to be carried away to the surrounding neighbourhood. I've not seen provision for a filtration system in the consultation in the master plan document. I raised this with the TALIS consultant in December 2025 in a room of 25 people, and there isn't one. This is what it feels like for the Carramar, Banksy Grove, Tapping, Nearbup and Clarkson residents. In my experience, our concerns have not been addressed. They are ignored. We are labelled a vocal minority, and a petition raising issues, including health risks, has been dismissed by the city administration. Where is the equity? Our community does not grant a social licence. I'm concerned the decision-making is not adequately reflecting the interests of First Nations people and future generations, and I ask now how the consideration has been documented. We have repeatedly asked for independent inquiry. To date, the request has not been agreed. I asked Council to explain the reasons and publish the basis for that decision. Transparency and consultation. The strategy talks about transparent decision-making, but many resident groups continue to raise concern about a lack of genuine consultation and transparency. So, 10-year initiative, greater emphasis on the circular economy. Quote, revise the waste plan to include greater emphasis on the circular economy. The document says a renewed strategy, waste avoidance and resource recovery plan will build on the circular economy principles already in the current waste plan and expand them. It also says the current plan has focused mainly on improving waste collection, segregation and recycling systems. The update is described as shifting higher up the waste hierarchy, avoiding, reducing, reusing, repairing, sharing and borrowing. So waste is designed out before it is created, while still strengthening recovery services. Over the next 10 years, it would set targets and partnerships, encourage behavioural change and stimulate local reuse and repair with claimed benefits like lower emissions, lower costs and long-term environmental and economics. What the circular economy actually means, in plain terms, is eliminate waste and pollution, circulate products and material, and regenerate nature. But put simply, it means moving away from the take, make, dispose, and building a system that keeps materials in use for longer, while regenerating nature instead of degrading it. Targets in this document, target by 2030, reduce waste generation per capita by 20% compared with 2014-2015 levels, in line with the state government waste avoidance and resource recovery strategy. Now, incinerators need a steady waste stream to be financially viable. Councils often sign contracts that commit them to supplying waste tonnage. If we are serious about reducing waste, 20%, as this target requires, why are we planning for a third incinerator in Perth? I understand there have been community complaints associated with the Kwinana facility, and I ask Council to clarify the current status and risk profile of the Rockingham project. From a business perspective, locking in long-term tonnage commitments while aiming to reduce waste doesn't make sense. Another target for 2040, progressively increase total tree canopy across the city to 30%. I have to ask, what was that tree canopy before vast areas of native bush was cleared? Why circular economy doesn't sit with incineration? Circular economy approaches are about reducing waste and maximising resource recovery. Incineration is a linear disposal method, and it releases emissions into the atmosphere. In my view, those two directions are not compatible. What I'm asking the Council to do, Please make some time to review this draft strategy and test it properly against the Neerabup Resource Recovery Precinct Master Plan. Please organise an information session with independent experts outside of the waste industry who work with government bodies across Australia and who can actually present alternatives to incineration. This has been requested many times and should not be ignored. And please explain why the City of Wanneroo is using the same consultants as the MRC when there is a perceived conflict in relation to the future of Tamala Park and what governance controls are in place to manage that. So the public health plan was the next document I thought worth having a look at. The next document, Council has been asked to vote on the Public Health Plan 2630. I'm concerned again there are contradictions between that plan, what that plan says, and what the City is doing. The Mayor's foreword states, good health is influenced not only by healthcare, but also by the environment where people live, work, learn and play. Yet the City has not done health impact studies on the cumulative effect of the NRRP on nearby communities. There is a substantial international evidence about health impacts of facilities like these, but to my knowledge, the City has not addressed that evidence in any way that responds to community concerns. In my view, what is proposed is detrimental to communities living within a 15-kilometre radius. So again, selected extracts from the plan, couple of lines. What is public health? 3.1. Public health is the health and well-being of a community. It is more than delivering services or managing risks. It includes the conditions that allow a community to thrive. Local government can support and drive the changes required to achieve the best outcome. Or does that not apply to the residents of Carramar, Banksy Grove, Tapping, Neerabup and Clarkson? 3.2. Why is public health important to Wanneroo? This part of the document uses the same kind of broad promotional statements I mentioned earlier. For example, prevent illness and injury through safe environments and informed choices. But only one side of this is being listened to. Protect the community from environmental hazards, diseases and pollution. The NRRP is an environmental hazard, disease and pollution hub for the community. We have already endured the MRC's FOGO health issues, and you want to inflict more? And then it sets out the vision and approaches. It says promote. Ensure public health risks are considered and addressed in planning and development policies, and approve processes to facilitate healthy living and minimise impact from the health hazards. These are being ignored. Where are the cumulative health data studies for the NRRP? The other word it uses is protect. Protect against public and environmental health risks. This is clearly not a consideration for the people of Carramar, Banksy Grove, Tapping, Neerabup and Clarkson. So tonight I'm asking Council to take these issues seriously and to defer the vote on the 26th of May until the City has its house in order. From a governance and business perspective, there are too many conflicts and inconsistencies across these documents. As a business owner of 40 years and an employer, I'm left asking whether there is a communication breakdown between the community and the City on consultation and between departments within the City. Who is signing off on the contents of these documents? They don't align, and in several places they actually contradict each other. Given the contradictions in these documents and the errors that also appear in the minutes of meetings that I have attended since December 25...
Excuse me, Ms Martin, you've had 10 minutes. Councillors, do you wish to give her extra time to finish? Yeah, OK, I'm just asking councillors and they have agreed, so you may finish your deputation. Thank you.
I believe an independent audit of procedures should be considered. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms Martin. We now go to deputation number 2 about PTO 10326, response to petition, request to delay Neerabup Resource Recovery Precinct, proposed transfer of ownership from CRC to member councils. Speaker, Mr Kayakob. Mr Kayakob, could you just give us your name and the suburb that you live in? Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, elected members, CEO and staff. My name is Michael Kayakob, 1 Dundebar Fairway in Tapping. Councillors, I was educated at Hales School. I've studied architectural drafting. I'm a qualified architectural draftsman, specialising in service coordination. Burswood Casino, RNI Tower, QV1, all the military bases around Australia, the United UK nuclear bunkers, and I continue my work today. Councillors, on the 10th of December 24, you approved the Neerabup Resource Recovery Precinct Master Plan as a guiding tool to the city's future management precinct by 1. Endorsing the Neerabup Resource Recovery Precinct Master Plan as the key guiding tool to the development of the future waste management precinct for the city, and authorise administration to implement the recommendations made by Tallis Consultants. And Tallis Point 2 states, focus on the development of the southern area of Lot 600 for the delivery of the high priority waste infrastructure. That's your stage 1, councillors, and leave the north expansion area for future development. That's your stage 2, councillors. The high priority waste infrastructure for stage 1, as per your Tallis report, includes a waste transfer station, a materials recovery facility, a community recycling centre, and a waste-to-energy facility. Furthermore, Tallis recommendation point 8 states that the waste-to-energy facility should be included in all such activities from the outset to assist with its social licence and future approval processes. How, why and where did we move from a precinct master plan guiding this precinct development with 2 stages, a southern portion with a waste-to-energy facility as stage 1 and a northern expansion area for future development as stage 2, to a waste transfer station dictating this precinct and its buffers? A critical shift in this approved strategy has occurred, i.e. the planning pathway. During the council meeting on the 25th of November 2025, CQ 01-11/25, question 3 relates. It was publicly clarified across the floor that the current planning and clearing applications are progressing for a modified stage 1 that excludes the waste-to-energy facility. DEWA clearing permit application had been lodged prior to this date in July 25. This separation, the planning pathway, introduces a major procedural issue regarding environmental buffers. Understanding regulatory frameworks, a Category 52 generator requires a 5-kilometre buffer zone, as confirmed by the City in questions to Council on the 28th of April 26. You'll find the categories of which you are approved in your Tallis report. There's 4 of them, 4 different classifications for EPA approval for this. If the precinct is assessed and developed in isolation without the waste-to-energy component, without the waste-to-energy component initially included, the full cumulative impacts from the complete master plan are not being evaluated by the relevant state agencies, DEWA and Department of Land Planning and Heritage, at this critical foundation stage. A letter was issued to a 5-kilometre radius, which objectively proves the relevance of the 5-kilometre zone. 5-kilometre buffer reduced to 1.8 kilometres. Unacceptable. Even Kwinana has a bigger buffer, and that's a highly polluted, long-standing, state-designated strategic industrial area, a sensitive, receptor-free area. Advancing a modified stage 1 without securing the full precinct 5-kilometre buffer parameters risks a situation where a significantly reduced buffer, reported at 1.8 kilometres, is applied later due to the site encroaching on surrounding residential development. This creates a long-term planning risk for nearby residents and conflicts with the holistic site approval implied by points 2, 7, 8 and 10 of your Tallis recommendations, which urge the City to seek a clearing permit for the full area from the outset. A full area clearing permit for stage 1. Because the current administrative pathway departs from the integrated multi-facility precinct approach endorsed by Council in December 24, a formal investigation into the NRRP process and procedures is justified. A comprehensive review will ensure that full diligence is maintained, cumulative impacts are legally accounted for, and the original intent of the council's motion is upheld. I urge you to support the petition, councillors. A 5-kilometre buffer, councillors, not a reduced 1.8 as proposed. I know some of you have had additional planning training, and your public health plan promotes insurance public health risks are considered and addressed in planning and development policies to facilitate healthy living and minimise impacts from health standards. But that does not exist when you approve this. And your public health plan will protect against public and environmental health risks, which we were not afforded when the NRRP was approved. Then we have this public Facebook page stating, Council is informing residents and is happy to accept improvements to design. However, it's not a debate about whether it should be here or there, but it is, councillors. This is the crux of the matter, siting. Respectfully, councillors, appropriate siting is the absolute foundation addressing public and environmental health risks. Preventing incompatible land use encroachment at the earliest evaluation stage is critical to fulfilling the exact objectives of proper and orderly planning and our future public health plan. We request that this council formally review the siting of this development against our strategic health protections before final approval. The administration's reasoning against the petition relies on the fact that DEWA and the EPA are currently assessing the application. However, because this assessment only covers a modified stage 1, it does not evaluate the holistic precinct concept originally endorsed by my council here. The core purpose of this petition is to address this procedural variance and request an independent review to ensure cumulative precinct impacts are fully accounted for. Truth-telling. Thank you, councillors. The second part of my deputation is regarding to the CRC handover. And my deputation relates to CMR 15915-2024, Catalina Estate Medium Strip, replacement of dying Cook Island and Norfolk Island pines. Councillors, 4th of April, I inquired about the dead and dying medium strip trees in Neerabup in Clarkson. Advice received, poor quality root-bound stock when installed, reticulation turned off when the trees should have been slowly weaned off reticulation, and the city expended funds to investigate. I'm informed that handover was in September 22, but unsure if this is before or after the 2-year maintenance period. The city noted the decline in the trees the first summer after this date. I again asked this question on the 28th of April, 26, only to be told handover after 2-year maintenance period was October 2016. Councillors, I bring to your attention that most of these trees were not installed until mid-2017. I suspect it was a staged approach to the planting. Please clarify the discrepancy between the recorded handover date of 2016 and the physical installation of some of the trees in mid-2017 and handover date of September 22. What contractual mechanisms or warranties exist to protect ratepayers from the financial burden of replacing root-bound, poorly irrigated stock? This leads us up to September 24, $41,500 urban greening grant, linking 1.4 k's of Neerabup Road, connecting Clarkson train station, library, youth centre and homes and businesses. 1,000 shrubs and 175 trees. I can see some trees, but I can't see any shrubs in the medium strip, nor on the northern verges of Neerabup Road, where the dual path links the trains, the libraries, the youths and or the businesses and homes. Prior to handing over the Catalina Regional Council, it is prudent to ask, given that the Urban Greening Grant acquittal notes 1,000 shrubs and 175 trees were planted, could the city provide a map or an asset breakdown showing exact locations of these plantings, please? Ratepayers on the northern side of Neerabup Road are concerned about the visual and actual lack of canopy, but this depends on in-ground services. An understory greening along the dual-use path connecting the existing established Clarkson community on the northern side of Neerabutt Road, which contains the actual footpath dual-use link between the station, library, youth centre, businesses and residents.
Mr Kayakob, you've had a full 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd nearly finished, but I think everybody gets the gist. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Kayakob. We now go to the third speaker this evening, which is about the Queensmindari Surf Lifesaving Club expansion investigation outcomes. Speaker is Lucas Stanfield. I understand there are 3 people who want to speak on this item. That is, are you all speaking in the same deputation? And if you are, it's the same 10 minutes, okay? Just so that you're aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors, city staff and consultants. My name's Saxon France. I live in Mindari and I'm from the Queensmindari Surf Lifesaving Club. We're here obviously for a rather important decision about funding of the improvements to the surf club. It is a large investment that we're making, so I'd like to put things into a bit of context for you. I joined the club in 2010, but prior to that I was elsewhere. I've been in surf lifesaving for over 30 years. But at that stage, Queen's had a membership of around about 400 or thereabouts. The facility we moved into was built for about 500 people, so all honky-dory back then. Our membership now is around about, we're nudging 1,200 members. So it's gone from a building that was built for 500 to around the 1,200. Over that period, the needs on our surf lifesaving have changed as well. And this is what we're there for. We're a first responder, we're an emergency service. We're there to protect people on the beach and to make sure that people come down to enjoy themselves and go home and not restricted on the beach. So the upstart of it is that we've run out of room because demands on our services have increased over the years. So has our emergency resources grown, and we are running out of room to actually keep our stuff. We've got members who have equipment at home and they bring it to the club. Because we've got nowhere to keep it at the club. So that's the underlying reason as to why we need an expansion. Another underlying reason is our membership. As I said, it's grown from roughly 400 to nudging 1,200 since 2010. It is growing exponentially each year. So it's not as though we're just going to sit here at 1,200 and that's it. It's going to keep growing. The facilities we have for our members is very limited, given that we originally started off with a demand for about 500 people. So this is the underlying reason why we need to expand our club, is so that we can look after the community of Wanneroo. It's not just the ward members that, the coastal ward members that go to the beach, it's the whole of the city of Wanneroo. So we want to look, sometimes we even let the Joondalup people come across, but we need to look after all of our beachgoers and we need to do it properly. So we need this expansion.
Thanks, Saxon. My name's Lucas Stanfield. I live in Mindari. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. So I just wanted to address a few things about what the club actually means for the city. So you hear a lot that we are not a sports club, and that is absolutely the case. We're ultimately an operational-based volunteer emergency response organisation that helps keep the city's beaches safe. It's a major community organisation. The club delivers Woodside Nippers, which is teaching beach safety skills to our children. It's a youth development place. We're teaching leadership. We're teaching volunteering. In fact, we've got one of our youth members with us today, Brady, who's a real credit to the club and the city. We offer patrol training. We have emergency response capability. We offer a Silver Salties service, which is for our older members of the community. We give them strength and opportunities for strength and conditioning classes. They have walk and talk sessions, and we also take them in for swims in a safe environment. We offer volunteering opportunities for the community and just generally health and wellbeing outcomes. So this redevelopment is not simply about improving a building. It's about investing in an organisation that delivers life-saving services, youth development, health, wellbeing and social connection across all ages. The club creates and allows social connection. It develops lifelong friendships. It gives leadership opportunities. It provides youth engagement, youth mentoring, gives community identity and facilitates intergenerational participation. The club supports members from all ages. We have young nippers, as I said, which are under 6s to under 13s. We have youth members from under 14s to under 17s. We have active patrol members, which are 18s, going through it right through adulthood. And then we, as I said, the older adults through our Silver Salty program. The club genuinely services the whole community across all age groups. So a Surf Life Saving Club is not simply a building. It's a network of highly skilled volunteers delivering life-saving capability, training, mentoring and community connection. So just this year alone in patrol operations, we had 115 patrols completed in the season, which included Christmas Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Day. We had a patrol footprint of nearly 14 kilometres from north of Burns Beach through to Alkimos. Our members contributed 4,600 patrol hours. We conducted 7 rescues. We had 785 preventative actions and 57 first aid treatments. Our patrol capability is supported by 149 members across 10 patrol teams, and we have additional 96 members supporting other patrols and water safety. We also provide services during the abalone fishing days, which we know can be extremely dangerous. We also have joint training undertaken with Volunteer Marine Rescue. We have training outcomes with this year alone with 23 new surf rescue certificates, which is for the younger members, and 18 new bronze medallions for our older members. And remember, as Saxon said, this is a service that we do for the entire city. It is not just for the Queens-Mindarie suburbs, it's across the city. I'll hand over, so thank you very much for your time. I'll hand over now to Caroline.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Caroline White. The club is grateful for the collaborative work that's been done by the city and consultants. The proposed plans address many of the long-standing operational deficiencies. We would like to offer a recommendation on the way forward for the building regarding the options. We support endorsement of option 2B as the base case. However, we ask that option 2A remain under consideration through the detailed design and pricing phase, with final decision between the two options deferred until a later stage, ideally at construction tender. The additional cost to keep option 2A viable through the design is likely to be relatively small. Much of the necessary work should occur as part of good future-proofing practice, particularly if the project proceeds with a suspended slab design. The current cost difference between options 2B and 2A may overestimate the actual variance. Once the project reaches tender and contractors are pricing the works, the difference may be less than currently indicated. Keeping option 2A alive through the design phase preserves flexibility for council. Option 2A provides long-term operational and community benefit. It enables a flexible, multi-use space above the gym that could support training and youth development for our lifesavers. These activities often occur at the same time as functions in the main room. Incorporating this area within the main works is likely to be more cost-effective than delivering it later, when it would be more expensive and disruptive. Deferring the option decision provides council with greater flexibility. we believe the current process provides a strong opportunity to achieve a practical, future-focused facility that will benefit both the club and the wider community. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, and thank you very much for coming out to make your deputation this evening. We now go to item 4, reports. I don't think there's anyone in the room else that wants to do a deputation, so we now go to item 4, reports. Planning and Sustainability. Mr Lee, would you like to take the chair? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, there are 3 reports from the Planning and Sustainability Directorate this evening, a couple of which have already been referred to in deputations. The first report presents our draft environment and sustainability strategy, which provides a 10-year roadmap balancing rapid urban growth with environmental responsibility. It aligns our approach directly with the council plan by focusing on 3 priority areas, being cooler, greener communities, clean energy transition, and innovative waste practices. The strategy also streamlines delivery into a single overarching strategy that will be supported by transitioning some of our existing lower order strategies into action plans. At this round of council meeting, we're seeking council support to consult on the draft strategy, following which we'll return to council with the outcomes and seek final endorsement. Our second report presents our public health plan. Under the Public Health Act of 2016, all local governments are required to develop a council-endorsed public health plan aligned with the state public health plan by June 2026. As an organisation, we already deliver a significant range of public health initiatives. The plan brings this work together and aligns with the strategic goals of our council plan. The plan itself doesn't seek to introduce new commitments, nor does it seek additional budget or resources. It rather consolidates what we already do to support community and health and wellbeing. There have been several rounds of consultation on the public health plan to date, and it's presented to council for final endorsement in a couple of weeks' time. And finally, our third report relates to the repeal of the site erosion and sand drift prevention local law. I won't speak to this in any detail other than to say that council has considered this matter several times and determined that the local law is no longer necessary, with other legislation providing an adequate base from which to effectively manage site erosion and sand drift. This report merely seeks council's support for the final step in the process so that we're able to repeal this local law. Thank you, Mayor. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr Lee. We go to item 4.1. Councillors, do you have any questions on item 4.1? I'll go to Councillor Huntley. Thank you first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, our community is very proud of native animals that live alongside us. We have quendas, we have possums, kangaroos. Does this strategy include specific measurable targets for protecting their habitat? And how will the council be told each year whether those targets have actually been met through this strategy?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. The draft strategy doesn't have specific targets on wildlife specifically, but if I can direct council's attention to page 4, there is a diagram that provides the document hierarchy, and so the environment and sustainability strategy is intended to provide that overarching vision, and then there are, within the 3 focus areas, several action plans that we have in existence and intend to transition across. The local biodiversity plan, which sits within the greener, cooler spaces pillar, is the action plan that will have more detail on that. We're actually very close to finalising that. We'll be bringing that to council in the coming months.
Thank you. Do you have another question, Councillor Huntley?
I do, Madam Mayor. As our city grows northwards and the bushlands and wetlands areas that wildlife depend on are being surrounded by housing, does this strategy include a dedicated fund and priority list for the city to actually purchase land for conservation before it's developed and permanently lost? Mr Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. No, the strategy doesn't go to that level of detail. As I said, the strategy is intended to be an overarching document under which more specific actions such as that would would then feature in other action plans. At this stage, I'm not sure if any of those do have that specific issue captured, but I'm happy to take that question on notice and investigate that further for you.
Yeah,
Thank you. And Councillor Huntley, you have another question?
that would be great, because the city already owns 156 conservation reserves, so it would actually be nice to make sure that we are going to protect those. So that would be great if you could do that. The next,
Councillor Huntley, you have another question?
I do.
Yep.
Next question is, our wetlands, including Lake Nerribup, Marinjanup, Lake Jandabup, and part of Lake Joondalup are irreplaceable ecosystems. Can you confirm that the strategy will strengthen and not weaken the buffer zones and the separation distances that protect these wetlands from development pressure?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The strategy is considered in the context of other legislation and there's certainly not an intent through the strategy to wind back existing legislative requirements, but there, as I said, there are other policies that guide more specifically what those buffer distances are between wetlands and our urban development.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Councillor Huntley, do you have another question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wondering if that might be something that you could actually consider going into this strategy, because it would be nice to know that we are, as a local councillor, not relying on developers to sacrifice those boundaries, but we actually set them in stone prior. I have another question, Madam Mayor.
Go. Just a minute, the Director will need to respond to that, Mr Lee.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Certainly happy to consider it. Again, it feels like it may be an initiative that may be more appropriate within one of the action plans rather than the strategy itself, but happy to take that into consideration. And as mentioned before, it will be balanced with the existing policy that does set buffer requirements, and so there would need to be a consistency between documents rather than looking to go beyond what is legislatively possible.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Do you have another question, Councillor Huntley?
Even if it was a reference, that would be great. I have another question, Madam Mayor. Community groups, volunteers like the Queen's Rocks Environmental Group have been protecting our local bushland for over 30 years. Does this strategy include reliable multi-year funding for those community groups to continue, or will there be any grants planned around them?
Thank you, Councillor Huntley. Mr Lee, could you respond to that?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Whilst the strategy doesn't commit to funding, that is something that's obviously reviewed as part of the annual budget process. So council do have an opportunity to review the funding of the grants that are available to our conservation and volunteer groups. I would suspect that in doing so, any grants or funding provided would be linked back to the initiatives that are outlined in the strategy. I think that's how the link between the two would be connected.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Is that all of your questions? Another two, because I know Councillor Berry wants to ask some questions as well. Go ahead with your next two questions, then we'll go to Councillor Berry.
Strategies are only as good as their accountability. Can you tell us exactly how and when council and the public will be told whether this strategy is working? And if targets are not being met, what automatically would trigger a review to this strategy?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The strategic action plans that are an input into support the strategy have a review period of every 4 years. I think through standard corporate council reporting, we'd be able to also report more frequently than that on the performance against targets. Certainly if it is becoming apparent that we are falling short, then we would look to correct that with other initiatives.
Thank you, Mr Lee. And your final question, Councillor Huntley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My final question, obviously, is the Carnaby black cockatoos are a federally endangered species. We also have frogs, one of our nature's most reliable indicator of wetland health, and also we have obviously our turtles. And one of our turtles, obviously the western swamp neck turtles, again is a critically endangered turtle, and our long-necked turtles are threatened. Obviously, these species depend on our Banksia woodlands and our wetlands. So what is Wanneroo doing for the ability to feed and the survival of these animals? And can the city confirm that its strategy includes a specific commitment to protect, map and expand the Banksia woodland wetland habitat? The birds rely on this habitat, and no further clearing of identified carnaby's foraging habitat will be permitted without a full council decision and independent environmental review. Could you confirm that would be something that should be in the strategy, and perhaps, obviously, it should be seen to cover and be able to be assessed over the years? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Huntley. Mr Lee.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. As mentioned in response to one of the earlier questions, I think the specifics around protection of certain wildlife is probably more likely to sit within something like our local biodiversity plan, similar to that as well in terms of the trees planted and the protection of trees and the provision of an urban canopy. There is an intent to review and convert the current urban forest strategy into an urban forest plan, so that's something that we can pick up as part of that. I just did miss the part where there was a certain element that you were wanting an observation on in relation to a full council decision. I just missed that, and so if I could ask that to be repeated, I'm happy to respond.
Councillor Huntley.
So that included a specific commitment to protect, map and expand the Banksia woodland habitat, if there was going to be clearing identified that would affect either the wetlands or the carnaby foraging habitat, so in other words the Banksia side, so that would be, you know, sort of Pinjar, somewhere like that, where you're actually going into that deep habitat there. Will you make sure that would not be permitted without a full council decision and independent environmental review?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Huntley, for repeating that. I think that will have to happen as part of the course. So if I think about the type of land that you're describing, it would, for development to occur, it would most likely require certain planning processes to take place, whether that's rezoning or structure planning. Both of those processes aren't something that is dealt with at an officer level. We undertake the assessment, but we do present it to council for feedback and comment. The caveat I'd probably need to place on that is council isn't always in control of that final decision. So whilst council may form a view that some clearing or the extent of clearing shouldn't be undertaken, quite often in those processes it's either the West Australian Planning Commission or the Minister for Planning themselves that will make that final decision. So as I said, my view is it's likely to be part of the course, that council will be involved, the only exception being subdivision, but by the time you get to a subdivision proposal, it has probably already gone through those precursor planning processes such as rezoning or structure planning in which council is involved.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Councillor Huntley, I'm going to give Councillor Berry a go because you've had 8 questions so far. I'll go give Councillor Berry a few questions, and then I can come back to you if you still have some. Councillor Berry, you have some questions on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I've only got one question. On page 18, it says there's mentioned strategic targets, which are only 4 years away by 2030. How are admin going to ensure the reductions are achieved? And are there further targets in terms in percentage terms for the 10-year initiatives? And I'm referring to 2030, there will be a reduction in waste generation per capita by 20%, and by 2030 there will be an increase in recycling rate to 70%. And will these targets impact the Nirrumbuk Resource Recovery Centre? Thank you.
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'm happy to begin with a response, and then the Director of Assets might have some more detail as well. In terms of how we're tracking, that is absolutely a question that the Director of Assets would be better placed to respond to than I. I think in terms of how we'll go about meeting those strategic targets, the detail will be set out in the Strategic Waste Avoidance and Resource Recovery Plan. And my understanding is that's currently being progressed at the moment, and so that's where the detail would lie. But through you, Mayor, if I can invite the Director for Assets to contribute any further.
Mr Singh.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As Director Lee has mentioned, that plan will actually identify the various actions which Council can commence and deliver, which will enable the reduction in per capita generation of waste and also increase the recycling. Some of the initiatives which we currently do is through waste education and also implementing some projects where we do try to recycle and recover some of the waste for different purposes rather than it going to landfill. So that will come through in the waste avoidance and recovery plan.
Thank you. I have a question. Just reading that paragraph there, it says by 2030 there will be a reduction in waste generation per capita by 20% in comparison with the 2014-15 levels, in line with the State Government Waste Avoidance Resource Recovery Strategy 2030. That is since that it'll be 15 years, over a period of 15 years. Is that correct, according to what you've written in that paragraph? So we've only already done 12 or 13 years of that waste avoidance strategy so far. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor, that's correct. City adopted its strategic waste management plan, I think it was in 2016. So this work has been continuing since then to implement various actions and strategies to reduce waste generation at source.
Thank you. Councillor Huntley, you have another question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering, in this strategic plan, which is good, a little bit, I did think it was a little bit thin, but however, is there any chance that we can add those references to these documents which are going to affect the strategic targets and how we can find those strategic targets in the future if we only have this document? Because otherwise nobody will understand there's a biodiversity plan, there's another plan, it makes no reference to these. So could we cross-reference on all those documents? That would be absolutely fantastic if we could.
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'm happy to consider how we can make those connections, and so whether it's off the top of my head looking at the strategic targets for water, for example, we can refer to perhaps where or which plan that target is likely to be, or the actions we're likely to respond to that. It may be more than one plan, but there will be a primary plan, I'm sure. So happy to look into that.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any other questions on item 4.1? Deputy Mayor Miles.
Yeah, just two briefly. Mr Lee, with the targets that we're wishing to achieve on tree canopy and some of the other biodiversity areas, are all those going to be uploaded onto the GIS that the city has, which is a publicly facing live document that the residents can view?
Mr Lee.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Just conferring with the Manager of Strategic Land Use Planning Environment, we don't necessarily know how we would do that, but we're quite happy to look at how we can make our performance against targets available for public, and then certainly keeping it dynamic so we're able to report on it at a fairly regular basis. So whilst I don't know how we can do that at the moment, I'm certainly happy to take that on board and see how we might be able to accommodate that.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Deputy Mayor Miles.
And just a final one with regard to the waste targets, Mayor. I believe through our waste avoidance resource recovery committee, which we only had this week, I believe so that data is available as well, but I'm not sure who's going to be putting it up, whether it's Mr Lee or Mr Singh. But again, there's some good information there for our residents to view, so I trust that we can put that up. Would you not agree, Mayor?
Well, I would agree, but would Mr Singh and Mr Lee agree?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I hope I'm speaking on behalf of Mr Singh as well, but yes, happy to look into how we can make that information available as well.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on item 4.1? If there are no further questions on item 4.1, I go to item 4.2. Councillors, do I have any questions on item 4.2? Councillor Smith.
My question is to do with one of the pieces of feedback that was provided by the public on page 55 regarding fast food outlets. The city's response was for consideration by admin in line with the objectives of the city's draft local planning strategy and district planning scheme number 2. I was just wondering if admin could expand a little bit because this has been a common complaint about, I guess, lack of ability to control how many fast food outlets and things like that, and people's concerns with health. Previous things, if you're on a DAP, has been it's not a consideration of that. So can you expand on what options that we can explore with the city? Thank you.
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The city's at a point in time in its planning whereby we have finalised our local planning strategy, and that's currently with the West Australian Planning Commission waiting for finalisation and endorsement. That's really a precursor to the preparation of a new local planning scheme. And so we have begun development of a local planning scheme 3 that will replace the current district planning scheme number 2. How that has relevance to the control of fast food outlets really comes down to land use definitions, zoning of land and land use permissibility. So a town planning scheme is set up in terms of, it's almost like a matrix as to tell you what you can do in what zones, and so you'll have a number of different zones defined and mapped throughout the area. You'll then have your list of defined land uses, and on that grid you'll assign a degree of permissibility. So you might say that you can have a fast food outlet in a commercial zone, but you can't have it in a residential area, and so that sort of narrows where they can be located. What I believe some other local governments have done in the past is to refine where fast food outlets can be located. So they've reduced the number of zones in which they're permissible, or they may attach conditions around being able to operate in a certain zone. So there may be additional constraints or criteria that sort of narrows where a fast food outlet can operate. That's certainly where we're at in the process. There's an opportunity for council to review the approach that admin recommend and form a view one way or the other. Again, ultimately, and in reference to a question earlier, when it comes to our town planning scheme, we certainly get to recommend and outline what we would like to see in it, but ultimately the Minister for Planning will approve our town planning scheme. So it may be a case whilst we have a certain outcome that we're seeking to achieve, it might not actually be supported at the end of the day. I think as well, the other observation I would make, fast food outlet is fairly broad in its definition. You can't really, I can't see how it would be possible through a planning framework to prevent one fast food outlet over another from operating in a certain area. And so if we're trying to make judgment calls as to what's an appropriate type of fast food versus another, that's probably an area where we can't control. And so we'll just need to be very mindful of you're either all in or you're all out. And so then we need to consider that in the broader context of access to amenities and services for the community.
Thank you, Mr Lee. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up on that. Do you have any sort of idea about ETA in terms of the timeline of that? And I definitely love the idea of having a bit of that coming to a workshop or something like that so we can participate in that. Thank you.
Mr Lee.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. We've actually just very recently been in touch with the department and we're hoping to meet with them quite soon to talk through timelines in terms of progressing our strategy, and that has a knock-on effect for milestones and timelines for our scheme. I think at this stage we're anticipating to be in a position to start having discussions with elected members in the back half of this year. Probably toward the end of the year, I imagine there'll be a number of workshops over a series of weeks or concept forums where we'll bring certain chapters or issues to elected members as we prepare the scheme. So long story short, probably toward the end of the year.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 4.2? Deputy Mayor.
To follow up, Mayor, to Councillor Smith's fast food, and I'm understanding that you can't define fast food because fish and chips, Chinese restaurant, chicken, but is it defined purely because it might have a drive-through?
Mr Lee.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Quite possibly under what the model scheme text, which would be the expectation of what we'd need to follow now. From memory, there is a definition for fast food drive-through outlet and fast food outlet. I would like to just take it on notice just so I can confirm to make sure I'm providing current information, but that's certainly my recollection.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any other questions on item 4.2? There are no questions on item 4.2. We go to 4.3, City of Wanneroo repeal Local Law 2026, Site Erosion and Sand Drift Prevention Local Law 2016. Do I have any questions on this item? Councillor Figg.
Yeah, just one, thank you, Mayor. While this has been out for comment and is coming back to us, has it been enforced in any way?
Mr Lee.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. So we do have a very active sand drift inspection program. It's actually enforced under our town planning scheme, so district planning scheme number 2 and the Planning and Development Act. And so fundamentally, and what's leading to the request to repeal the local law is that we find we have more effect controlling through our planning legislation than we do with our local law. And so just by way of monitoring, we do have 73 major development sites that we proactively inspect weekly or fortnightly, depending on their risk rating. And so that translates to, so far this financial year, we've done just over 1,300 inspections. So it is something that we are very proactive and spend a lot of time and resources on.
Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the answer to that one. I guess supplementary to that, do we have a record of the number of infringements that we have applied under the town planning scheme as opposed to the law that we are repealing?
Mr Lee.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I don't have the information in terms of what we may, or the historical information we may have enforced under the local law. What I can say of late is we've issued, and I guess this speaks to our escalation of enforcement, and we've issued 26 48-hour notices. So there have been 26 individual notices issued to developers throughout the district, advising them of breaches and letting them know that they if they're not able to comply with their obligations within 48 hours, they would face an infringement or a prosecution. Quite fortunately, we haven't had to move to issuing infringements or prosecuting at this stage. The developers are very aware of the Sandrift inspection program that we have now and are quite complicit when we do identify issues and issue notices to them. So 26 so far this financial year.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 4.3? If there are no items on question 4.3, we now go to assets. Mr Singh. Thank you, Mr Lee and Mr Piggott and Mr Bricconi. Mr Singh, are there any items you wish to speak to on the agenda this evening?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. From the 4 items from SS Directorate, I don't wish to speak on any of them, given that item 4.4 is seeking change of term of reference, a minor change in that one. Item 4.5 has been discussed quite widely in this chamber. Item 4.6 and 4.7 are the tender's recommendations.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Do I have any questions, councillors, on item 4.4? Councillor Smith.
My only question was, considering I think at the last OCM we had to find somebody new for the Roadwise group because it said you have to have a minimum of 3 members. I know we got a replacement person, but did we want to reconsider having the minimum continue to be 3 if we're revising that in this time? Thanks.
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The proposal in this particular report is seeking to increase the membership for the community representatives. Council can nominate more than 3 anyway. So it's minimum 3, but council can choose to nominate more if councillors are interested.
Councillor Smith.
So my point was to say whether we wanted to consider to reduce the minimum number of councillors. So I know that this is to increase that part, but to also address that potential problem that we were addressing last week as well.
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think that's for council members to decide as a council whether you want to reduce that number. But having 3, I think, is quite minimal anyway. But given that if we are increasing community membership to 10, the background intention is to have more community participation in road safety initiatives. Having council representation in that one adds value to that as well.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on item 4.4? If there are no questions on item 4.4, we go to item 4.5, which is PTO 10326, response to petition request to delay Neerabup Resource Recovery Precinct. Do I have any questions on this item, councillors? Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to refer to page 86. And it's about the Environmental Protection Authority. Administration has provided additional information requested by the EPA to allow them to undertake the review, the outcome of which is anticipated in late July 26. Are we and the public allowed to know what information was requested and what the answers were that were provided, please?
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'll have to take that on notice. I think my team has spoken to the EPA officers when initially the referral was made to them, and they requested information on this particular project. We have provided that one, but I'm happy to provide that through the council members, a summary of what has been asked and what has been provided.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Councillor Berry, you have another question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Singh, for that answer that you provided to council members. Is it information that can be transparently provided to the public as well, please?
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, we can also put that on our project webpage on City of Wanneroo's website.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Councillor Berry, you have another question?
Yeah, just one more. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Has DWA asked for any further information, or have we not heard from them yet? Thank you.
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Not that I'm aware of, given that before they commenced the community engagement period or the submission period back in March, they requested all the information which they needed. So they validated the application before they opened that public submission period. So as far as I'm aware, they haven't asked any further.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor C.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the community for your deputations this evening. So we heard a deputation from Mr Michael Kyakob, who indicated that there seemed to be, and I know we're only dealing with stage 1, but that in stage 2, that there was going to be potentially a waste energy facility of the category that would require a 5,000 metre buffer zone. Can you confirm whether that's correct?
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. It will depend upon the technology if and when that becomes available and council considers that to be brought to that particular site. So depending upon what the technology will be, that will dictate the requirements for a buffer zone or other requirements as well. So at this stage, I think that's a bit hypothetical to confirm what buffer will be required for this particular facility.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Councillor Seif.
I understand that it's hypothetical. Depending on the technology that is available at the time, is there room to have a 5,000 metre buffer zone?
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'll have to take that on notice and confirm the exact, for this particular question, that what buffer is required.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Any other questions, councillors? If there are no more questions, we now go to item 4.6. Please be reminded that there are confidential attachments to item 4.6. So if you have any questions on the confidential attachments, we will have to go behind closed doors. So 4.6 is tender 25262, provision of turf renovation services. Do we have any questions on this item, councillors? If there are no questions on this item, we now go to item 4.7, which also has a confidential attachments, which is tender 26009, provision of Yanship Park and streetscape maintenance. Councillors, do we have any questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, we now go to community in place. Thank you, Mr Singh.
Mayor, if I may, I think there may be some substantial questions for 4.8, and noticing that we've got some people in the gallery for the next item, could we just flip that and do 4.9 first, please?
Yes, we can go. That's if we can get Ms Davis to talk to 4.9 first, that would be good. Thank you. Ms Davis, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Aiken and council members. 4.9, Queen's Mindarie Surf Lifesaving Club expansion investigation outcomes. The report can largely be taken as read. I would like to make a few additional comments based on some of the commentary surrounding the report. But firstly, acknowledging the Queen's Mindarie Surf Lifesaving Club reps here this evening. And also agreeing that this report reflects a strong collaboration between the city and the club. I'd also like to extend an appreciation to all 3 clubs in the city. We have included in your green folders an updated site map, and based on some of the, and that will also be included in the changes to reports. Based on some of the commentary, it's been noted that there is approximately 9 kilometres between Queen's Mindarie and the Alkimos Surf Lifesaving Club, and that a coordinated approach is required. This planning report, 4.9, supports and works with Council's current plans for the Alkimos Surf Lifesaving Club. It nominates money for the Queen's Mindarie Surf Lifesaving Club in the long-term financial plan, where there is currently no money allocated, and in a year where there is the capacity to add that in. Noting that there is some further investigatory work required, as you would have heard today, around the design deficiencies and is nominated in the report, these timeframes allow that work to proceed. It also provides time to do the necessary advocacy required, and it aligns with the election cycles. Whilst the recommended timelines support for that work to occur, it also maintains Council's responsibility as the final decision makers in the annual reviews of forward planning documents such as the long-term financial plan and the forward capital works plan. There is further evidence of a collaborative approach to the programs between the two clubs, and we did hear tonight already about the abalone patrols occurring 4 times a year, which is part of a gazetted role through state government legislation. And collectively, these two clubs in the 24-25 season, they performed 35 rescues, delivered first aid to more than 100 people, undertook more than 1,200 preventative actions. And if we use the Australian government's value of statistical life, which is the VSL formula that they created for this, this equates to a value of more than 200 million delivered by volunteers. In discussing this approach that I've just outlined with Surf Life Saving WA, it is considered to be consistent with the approach with other local governments. For example, the Sorrento and Mullaloo Surf Life Saving Clubs, with about a 5-kilometre difference and similar challenges that we face. Also the Floriat and City Beach Surf Clubs, about a kilometre difference, and the Cottesloe and North Cop Surf Clubs, which is less than a kilometre. So the evidence and industry knowledge that we've conducted across those local governments therefore predicts that the patronage that we heard tonight and that's in the report may hold due to the historically strong level of service provided at the Queensmindari Surf Life Saving Club. Together with their quality provision on record, I'd also like to note the Youth Development Program. For all of those reasons, administration is proud to present this investigation findings tonight and confident that the recommendation before you is based on due and orderly planning. I'd also like to note that I have the former Acting Manager of Community Facilities with me, and we welcome back to Chambers the Acting Manager of Community Facilities. However, I've invited Mr Star Wars to answer any technical questions as he was the author of the report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. Do I have any questions on item 4.9? Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I refer to page 241, and it refers to the development of the Alkimos Surf Life Saving Club, and when that we're going to be waiting for Queensmindari Surf Life Saving Club until Alkimos is built. The report doesn't actually tell us when Alkimos is due to be put online. Is it possible to be told, please?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. So the current long-term financial planning documents has the Alkimos Surf Life Saving construction schedule between 2028 and 2030. And as you'll see in the report, the Queensmindari construction between 2032 and 2034.
Thank you, Councillor Berry.
Thank you. The Alkimos Surf Life Saving Club, can you tell us how that will be funded, please?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. The Alkimos Surf Life Saving Club has a nomination of just over 8 million. Allocated towards that is some developer contributions through the Alkimos and Eglinton developer plan, as well as 3 million from a state election commitment.
Thank you. Councillor Berry, you have another question.
Thank you, Mayor. So when we get to the next election cycle, the Alkimos Club has already got its election commitments. The Queensmindari Club hasn't yet got any election commitments. Would admin agree it would be better if this project was shovel ready? Thank you.
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. In my experience, having shovel-ready projects for election commitments does serve a purpose in that they are attractive to members of Parliament that may wish to have some certainty around that project. Its cost is more certain, and that the project is ready and will be delivered within that election commitment cycle. Having projects shovel-ready with a long lead time for the election does lead us with a little bit of risk in that there is elements of change.
Thank you. Councillor Berry.
Thank you. I also know in the report it indicates that there is a possibility that building Alkimos could impact the Queensmindari Surf Life Saving Club. Would admin agree it takes a long time to build up programmes? And even if Alkimos does come online before this extension goes ahead, it could take Alkimos a considerable amount of time to offer the same amount of programmes that we currently get value through from having the Queensmindari Surf Life Saving Club. Thank you.
Ms Davis.
Thank you for your question. And continuing through the Mayor, it is noted in the report, and I think I did also say that we've done a significant amount of work with Surf Life Saving WA and looked at all of those other projects that local government have had to develop to facilities within close proximity and within a time frame. And that evidence historically does suggest that that patronage will hold. The evidence at Queensmindari is it is a historical club, more than nearly, as we heard, 10 to 20 years now. It has a patronage that will potentially hold. We are also aware that the development needs around the Alkimos area will escalate. So there isn't currently any concerns for the Alkimos Surf Life Saving Club for building either their programs or in attracting patronage. I hope that answers your question. The thing that did come to mind when we heard from Queensmindari Surf Life Saving Club, they are servicing residents primarily within the catchment zone, also outside of the city of Wanneroo, but Western Australia is renowned for having the best beaches in the world, so we do have a visitor economy, and so those surf clubs will be servicing outside of that as well, which would need to also be a consideration as part of that advocacy program.
Thank you, Councillor Berry.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'd make the point that maybe the residents of Girraween may not go to Queensmindari, they might go to Mullaloo, which is a bit nearer, so I suppose it is, horses for courses. I'd just like to flag an amendment for a fortnight's time, if that's possible, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe's got a question. I know Councillor Parker's got a question. Councillor Rowe, would you like to ask your question, please?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I have several questions. The first is, was this item brought to Concept Forum for discussion? And if not, why did it come first to a briefing session?
Ms Davis.
Thank you for your question. This item is following on from a motion on notice, so it has already been to Council for discussion.
Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Second question. Recommendation number 3 lists $8 million in the LTFP, noting that construction is listed for 2033-34. Does that factor in realistic modelling for inflationary pressures in the construction market, given the situation that we're experiencing on our refurbishments and our asset renewals at this difficult time?
Ms Davis.
Thank you for the question. And continuing through the Mayor, the figures in the report are based on today's dollars. We do note that the city is working towards its community infrastructure plan, and as part of that plan, we'll have embedded within it a facilities design principle. So that's where we'll actually be able to get more clarity around the requirements of the facility when the time comes.
Yeah, Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Last question from me. This is not an isolated item that is coming to us in regards to new expenditure that needs to be considered in the long-term financial plan, large-scale capital in asset renewals or refurbishments. Has administration considered the precedent of including in their recommendations either guidance or a requirement for a target of funding that needs to be accrued through non-municipal sources? And by that I mean whether administration has considered recommendations on these kind of items that list whether it be 30, 40, 50% as an appropriate target for these projects for the amount of funding that will not be expected from ratepayer contributions.
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe, for the question. It hasn't been included as part of the recommendation for you for item 4.9. However, on Council's agenda in item 4.8, that has been discussed in that report, and for the benefit of this item, that report does suggest to Council that Council's focus would primarily be on district level facilities and neighbourhood and local level facilities, and direct its municipal developer contributions and other like grant funding into those level facilities. The report goes a little bit further to suggest that regional level facilities should be attracting wholly or the majority of external funding from state and federal government. I hope that answers your question.
Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to acknowledge that I'll work with Councillor Berry and the administration over the forthcoming week to see if potential amendments that are being foreshadowed can be aligned. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parker.
Thanks, Mayor. And can I just start by saying that this report has actually not been seen by Council yet. And thank you for the report. My question, and I have had a lengthy discussion with Director Davis, goes to process. Is it possible to have this item brought to forum on Tuesday for information and discussion to take place to ensure the correct decision is made by Council in 2 weeks' time at the OCM?
Ms Davis.
Thank you for your question about bringing this item to Council to have a discussion at our forum on Tuesday, and I will look for every opportunity to do that. Failing that being a possibility, I will look to pulling together a couple of times for a Teams meeting perhaps that available councillors might be able to discuss, or workshop if that's suitable.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? I'll go to Councillor Smith and then Councillor Huntley.
Thank you. My question also refers to the recommendation in the report which says to not invest in any expansion until Alkimos is completely operational. So with the timeline for construction for the refurbishment to be 2033, it spun me a little bit, because the report says, you know, they're already exceeding their capacity, and this is 7 years. So I'm curious as to, in the communication with the club, what are their thoughts on that? And number two, I know we're still doing development plans and things like that, but for any things that we're doing now, 7 years later, who's to know that it's actually going to be meeting the capacity at that point in time as well? Thank you.
Ms Davis.
Thank you for your questions. With regard to the timing of the report being 2020 for construction 2032 through to 2034, given that this is not currently a project that's nominated into the long-term financial planning document, that's why it is identified within those years where there is capacity in the long-term financial plan without impacting Council's current forward capital works program. We do believe that this is a very sound planning document, given that the projections, the population, that need and demand is quite substantiated in the attachment, and hence all of the planning to go towards that. In regards to your comment around the synergies between the two surf clubs, there may be some lessons learnt that we could learn from the Alkimos construction that would then flow into the construction of the next surf club. So that we do find having that nice flow and strategically planned and prioritised projects does turn some benefit for us. Which can also go through to both design deficiencies as well as cost savings as well. In regard to your comment about how does the club feel about this, I understand that the club and the city have been meeting and both sides have got pain points, whether that is financial capacity and or capacity within the facility. And I understand that those relationships will continue to look at any quick wins along the way.
Thank you, Ms Davis. Councillor Smith.
This question is a tiny bit broader, but just considering that this refurbishment, I guess, is not in the early part of our long-term financial plan, is this an indication that similar surf life saving clubs could be impacted by the same problem? Do we have like trigger points in for when they reach a certain number where we should be looking, or when they've been designed, that there's room for the future, for future growth? I'm just wondering if this is an indicator of a greater problem as well. Thanks.
Ms Davis.
Thank you for the question. We believe that given that we have 3 surf clubs and the holistic approach that we're taking through facility planning at the moment, that once we are able to list this as a project, and we've got Alkimos and we've got Yanship, that our surf clubs will all be well and truly planned for, and there'll be an approach in place.
Thank you. Councillor Huntley, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to ask, what is the possible understanding of the city if help could come from outside funding, e.g. sponsorship from Lottery West, or maybe even sponsorship from a private investor? Due to the fact the space is very, very limited around this club, it really probably needs to go up a few stories, not just 1 or 2. So if that were the case, and the city, when it does its investigation, because it says here, endorses option 2B as a base of more detailed design business case work for the expansion of Quinn's Lifesaving Club. Could we, I will talk to Councillor Berry on her foreshadowed amendment, but if there was a chance that that could include the fact that we would look for outside sourcing of funding, because we know this, the ratepayers, we can't drag it out of their pockets, and certainly the state at the moment are obviously looking after their pockets. So at the end of the day, is there a chance that we could go elsewhere and look for funding? Lotteries West, this seems a perfect, ideal thing for Lotteries West. Are we not following that up?
Ms Davis.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Huntley. In short, yes, Lottery West will provide funding, and we've seen amounts of up to about 1.5 million from Lottery West to surf clubs. In the most recent build at Floriat, we did see a nomination from the former CSRFF funding from state government. Hence aligning this to the election cycles, because the new language is around Play 2030, and without any clarity around that, how we apply for that funding program, it does seem to be aligned to election cycles.
Thank you. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Miles.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of ones. Just to refer to the items, Ms Davis, on 241 with regard to some compliance issues with the BCA and also the DFES comments. Whilst I've questioned why the fire hydrants are where they are, is that just a matter of relocating them sooner so this project can obviously get a reasonably head start? Where's administration with that? Is it up to Paul Greer's team, or is it our team that's got to do that relocation?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and through the Mayor. I would like to defer this item to the Acting Manager of Community Facilities. He has a lot of detailed knowledge around the technical requirements, particularly around those options, and maybe best placed to answer that question.
Mr Storwitz.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Deputy Mayor Miles, for your question. Those issues noted in the report are just matters of compliance that the consultant flagged as needing further investigation through the detailed design phase of the project. At this stage, it's very much a high-level concept which looked at options for expansion within the site, given the known constraints around footprint, and proposed some suggestions or options around how the club's needs and operational challenges could be met. So there are some requirements around building code compliance, particularly around change rooms and toilets, and also fire protection and fire services around some of the boundary walls on property boundaries and so on. So that relates to, obviously, fire protection services for the building itself. I would have to look at, if the footprint were to expand, what the impact of that would be on fire protection within the precinct as a whole. So it's not something that's been specifically addressed through this report and would need to be looked at as the design's firmed up in more detail.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Miles.
Yeah, and just finally, at the recent surf club function that we had here, I did tackle the Queen's Surf Club's patron and did ask you, Ms Davies, to maybe visit Mr Folkard and explain what challenges we would have and what he could deliver. Did you have a meeting on that? I didn't see any reference to it in the report.
Ms Davis.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to provide some additional information. I did get the opportunity to meet with the patron. It was quite late on Friday, so apologies for not being able to update that. It was a very frank and fearless conversation where I outlined the timelines and the nature of the report and let the patron know that this item is coming through to council as well. The patron did note also some design elements that he would like to see included, particularly around a hoist for the toilet areas particularly, but definitely the support for the city to continue its advocacy around this project, and that support would be forthcoming as well.
Thank you. Councillor Parker.
Thanks, Mayor. And just two questions that I picked up earlier. Alkimos is a regional club. Can you please explain the difference? And also the second question, is the Alkimos Surf Club fully funded at this point?
Ms Davis.
Thank you for your questions. The Alkimos Surf Lifesaving Club is also a forward planning document, so it is 8.3 million nominated into the forward planning. The foreshore management plan draft has been finalised and is expected to come back through to council shortly, I believe around June, July this year, after which further high-level concept planning and detailed design can ensure, which will be able to refine those costs. So at this stage, the information that is available to us is that we have planned for $8.3 million according to the funds that we've collected through the DCP and is available through the state election commitment. And that is all that we know at this point in time. We'll continue to refine those costs as that project comes into greater clarity.
Thank you.
Can I please just check what the second part of that question was?
Through you, Mayor. The difference between, so that we all understand, what is the difference between a regional and a district club?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Parker. So the North Coast Plan review actually nominates the Alkimos Surf Lifesaving Club as a sub-regional facility. So that would be servicing a much larger catchment area, noting the difference in geography between Alkimos and all the way up to Yanchep, as well as the significant development in the immediate catchment zone around that surf club as well. In ordinary planning, we would suggest that a regional level facility would be offering a higher specification of services, and hence, therefore, the requirements of the build may be higher as well. For district level facilities, it comes back into a little bit more of a local level focus, a closer catchment zone, and more stylised to that immediate local community.
Thank you. I've got a question that I want to bring up here. On page 234, it says the Quins Mindarie Surf Life Saving Club facility was constructed in 2005. The past president of the Quins Mindarie Surf Life Saving Club said in 2010, when he joined, there were 400 members of the Quins Mindarie Surf Life Saving Club that already had a facility constructed. At the moment, the Alkimos Surf Life Saving Club has 450 members and they work out of 2 containers. Would you agree that there is a bit of a pressure, and they have 1 shower and 1 toilet, there is a bit of a pressure to get a facility built for them promptly because of the stress they're under with the facilities they've got? Would you agree that that would be a priority at the moment, Ms Davis? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for your question. Most of when we are doing our planning, we look at those development triggers. So given that the Alkimos Eglinton Developer Contribution Plan has already collected funds for the Alkimos Surf Life Saving Club, that does indicate that there is already a need in that area and that demand is increasing. Unless the Director of Planning might like to also add anything further about the developer contributions and that project.
Mr Lee.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Only to add that, as was touched on earlier, the current developer contribution plan for Alkimos Eglinton does include the Alkimos Surf Club, and so contributions are being taken to fund that facility. And then, as was also mentioned in relation to the foreshore management plan, it is currently with the city at the moment. We have reviewed it. Our intent is to present it to council in June to seek support to advertise that. At the same time, we've been working with both the Surf Club and Development WA to agree on a location for the Surf Club.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this item, councillors? If there are no questions on this item, thank you everyone from the Quins Mindarie Club for coming. I really appreciate you coming this evening. And we now go to item 4.8, the Northern Coastal Growth Corridor Community Facilities Plan. Ms Davis, would you like to speak to that item?
Thank you, Mayor. 4.8, the North Coast Facilities Plan Review. In the absence of any questions being received on this item, we've prepared some of the highlights for yourselves. The plan, as you are aware, it is a review. It's a strategic forward planning evidence-based document, and there is a need for us to move forward with final endorsement of this plan, as it is a precursor to the Alkimos Eglinton and the Yanchep 2 Rocks developer contributions plans. Key highlights of this review that you would have read in the report since 2020 include the transition to Council's Community Facilities Planning Framework 2025, replacing the previous PLA-WA or Parks and Leisure Australia WA approach. This has resulted in a stronger emphasis on building community hubs. So, for example, a library with a youth centre and a community centre co-located in one facility, as well as the reconciliation of regional open spaces. The facility recommendations nominate 7 regional and 23 district facilities, and delivery is linked to the development triggers, noting, however, that ultimate timing is reliant on the city's long-term financial plan and forward capital works documents that come before you annually. Considering the timing of the facilities, there is a framework on pages 168 to 172 of your agenda in the attachments. We believe it's likely that this is where most of the discussion will be attracted from the land developers during the consultation period. We suggest that this information is then brought back to Council Forum in August 2026 for discussion with council members before a final report is presented at the September OCM in 2026. Overall, this plan provides a clear roadmap to inform the review of the DCPs. I commend administration's review of this plan, and we are confident that it is ready for public consultation on your recommendation.
Thank you, Ms Davis. Do we have any questions? Councillor Smith.
Thank you. There's a couple of mentions of putting the district facilities with regional ones, and I just had a question whether that can have any potential unintended consequences of that delaying the overall delivery, being attached to regional spaces and then trying to require federal funding for the major part of that to go forward. So are potential delays a byproduct of that strategy?
Ms Davis.
Through yourself, Mayor, thank you for the question around regional and district level facilities being co-located and the potential for that to delay funding. We do have the example through the ARC where that has already been the case and it has been quite successful. We also have had experience in the past where some of these facilities, we had a conversation previously about them needing to be shovel ready, but we also do have through state and federal government where there is already funding available, that it might be able to attract that funding in a more seamless way. So you could go either way.
Thank you. Another question, Councillor Smith.
I have a couple, thank you. My next question refers to performance-related facilities being preferably located in senior high schools, secondary schools. And I just thought that that was a slight contradiction of another recent report that we received in terms of schools often the limited capacity that they can then have to hire out to the community based on their own current needs. So I just wanted clarity about that preference. Thanks.
Ms Davis.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about performing arts and cultural centres. The consultant's report was prepared in late 2025, and since then we have moved on. The conversation in performing arts has moved on with yourselves. You will note that on page 114 it does have that performing arts and culture centres could potentially be co-located inside a regional hub facility. We believe that this is at least one way in a response to alleviating the pressures around performing arts facilities in schools no longer being a viable option for our community members to access that service.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. On page 159, I was sometimes just a bit confused by the graph numbers. So if I go to, I think, the Sporting Reserve District, it's got 3 under the NCG CCFP 2020, and then in the plan for 2025, empty, and then showing a change of 2. There just seemed to be a few discrepancies in there which it wasn't consistent. So, and with that, then that would make me ask a question if that made sense. So to get an explainer of, okay, so what were the changes and why, things like that. Thank you.
Ms Davis.
Thank you for the question, and I'm if I haven't heard it correctly, I've got Mr. Star Wars sitting right here. As I am aware, the attachment that you're referring to would be considered our blueprint, our planning documentation, and it is based on all of those things that we talked about, development triggers, population, and that need and nexus between the need and demand for a facility. And this is what comes out of that formula once that due and orderly planning has been completed. You'll see in the column at the far right the change between the reviews. So in the first column it says this plan in 2020 may have suggested 2 district level community facilities for Alkimos. The plan in front of you tonight for the May OCM does have 1, so therefore the change is -1. So that has been summarised for you in the report on page 114.
I think my last question was just noting when it's talking about youth hubs being co-located next to like public open space and things like that, but also, I guess, wider hubs. As it explicitly mentioned, like skate hubs and POS, I just noticed that it didn't explicitly mention close to public transport as well. But I just would think that that's what we would hope to do as well. So whether that could be included or if it's just assumed, if that makes sense. Thanks.
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, we can make a provision in the changes to the report that includes public transport as one of those criteria.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe, you have a question?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Quickly before I ask my question, it's great to see Mr Clem returning to the chamber tonight. Welcome back, Mr Clem. My question, I have 2, Mayor. The first is, can the Director explain a little bit more about what the community engagement strategy will look like? Ultimately, this will be a phased approach in terms of when these facilities will be delivered, but it is a massive, significant amount of money, some of which won't be required from the city, that will put significant pressure on the LTFP. So when we're advertising and going to community engagement, how will the administration be implementing its strategy to manage expectations and to carefully from the outset create that messaging to community that, number 1, we won't be expected to deliver all these facilities, and number 2, there won't be an expectation that municipal contributions will totally fund these facilities?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe, for your questions, and through the Mayor. The consultation period is for 42 days on the actual plan that's in front of you. We do anticipate that there will be we know that we're going to be receiving and having a conversation with land developers in the area as the primary audience for where and how these facilities will be delivered in their areas. The amount of information that we get back, we believe that is where we will be able to have that conversation with Council at Council Forum, which we've scheduled in for August 2026. In regards to managing the community's expectations, particularly around those regional facilities and district level facilities, we've been very modest and considered in this review. We believe that's been informed from the city's own council's now endorsed community facilities planning framework. So this review has taken a much more bespoke approach, which instantly goes a long way in managing those community expectations. Also, in this report, we talk quite significantly around council's investment should be targeted towards those district level facilities. So going back to those facilities that are for the local community first and foremost, and that the regional level facilities are where we would expect wholly or largely to be externally funded. I think it might nominate around 100% funding for a regional open space is something that we believe should be a consideration of this council. We think that'll go a long way in managing those expectations. If you don't mind, Mayor, I would also like to invite the acting manager of community facilities to talk specifically around that consultation and the three-pronged approach that the team will be taking.
Mr. Storwitz.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for your question, Councillor Rowe. Yeah, I think a big part of the engagement process will be the need to be clear about what this plan does, first and foremost. In preparing the community engagement plan, I think we will need to be clear that it links to the developer contribution plans, that it focuses primarily on what is the need generated by new population growth in this corridor, and that plan is still at a very high level. That there is a large number of people that are projected to be housed in that corridor over the next 50 years. And as a result, there are commensurate number of facilities that are required. But this is just the first stage in that planning. It's purely an assessment of historical levels of provision as set in our planning framework and the standards of provision endorsed by Council to arrive at an estimated number of facilities that are required, which then informs our long-term financial planning and our subsequent facility planning processes. So I think in preparing our engagement plan and the key messages as part of that, we do need to highlight that this is the first step in identifying that need and that there are future planning stages that need to go. And as Ms Davis mentioned, that this is the first step in the process of reviewing our developer contributions plans for Yanchep Two Rocks and Alkimos Eglinton.
Thank you, Mr. Storwitz. Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Last question from me. When Council adopted the Community Facilities Planning Framework, it was acknowledged at the time that the shortfall in the long-term financial plan was in excess of $100 million to fund that capital works over a 20-year period. So noting just the existing pressures on delivering new builds and refurbishing existing assets, and this may, with your indulgence, Mayor, be more of a question to the CEO, is there scope for us to have a rigorous discussion about the Community Facilities Framework and also this Northern Coastal Growth Corridor through our long-term financial plan review workshops that we'll be undertaking post-budget adoption? Because I think that 10 to 20 year holistic look at our capital program, given our existing financial pressures, would be very opportune.
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Rowe, for including me. I was feeling a little bit left out tonight. I hadn't answered a question yet, so I appreciate that. The point you make is very valid, and I think when you look at the sheer quantum and the numbers that we're talking about here through this infrastructure plan, it needs to be front and centre when we do that LTFP review shortly after the budget's adopted. So you've hit the nail on the head. It's exactly something that we need to do, and I think we can't move into that process quickly enough, and I do think there needs to be more emphasis on the back end. Although we only publish the 10 years, administratively and from a working perspective, we do look at a further 10-year projection beyond that, and I think we need to be really tight on the full 20 years to make sure that what we're proposing to build and maintain is achievable and responsible at the same time.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Miles, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to clarify something, Mayor, to Director Davies. On page 120 of our report, it does talk about the relationship in the long-term financial plan of approximately $500 million is already, I guess, earmarked over the next 20 years. But I was trying to work out the facility category and the breakdown of costs. So whilst that is a total of $800 million, district facilities are partly funded by DCPs, and obviously municipal. So have we got too much money in the LTFP now? Is that what you're indicating?
Ms Davis.
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor Rowe. So just speaking at a very high level, if the long-term projection for the North Coast is about 800 million, and approximately half of that is district-level facility provision, we have that allocation currently within our long-term financial planning documents, and the other half is the regional level facility provision, which we propose should be wholly externally funded or largely externally funded.
Deputy Mayor Miles.
I think, and just finally, obviously, because we are talking about DCP funding as well, so once this gets completed, I'm assuming our planning department's going to have to update all of those DCP agreements up that coastline all the way through. Would that be correct?
Ms Davis. Or should that be Mr Lee? Ms Davis, I'll go to you first.
And I definitely will be throwing to the Director of Planning in a moment. Yes, we've been working very closely internally with the two teams and are aware that we would like to ensure that we do get an endorsement of this document within the May agenda so that we can meet those consultation timeframes, come back to forum for August, and then come back with a final plan for endorsement in September 2026, at which point I'll hand over to Mr Lee.
Mr Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. In short, yes, it will be the catalyst for us to review the Alkimos-Eglinton DCP and then also the Yanchep-Two Rocks DCP. Where the Alkimos-Eglinton DCP is at in its life, it's got an expiration date in 2039. We are due to undertake a 5-year fundamental review of that DCP, and so this work that's being considered by Council this round of meetings will be the precursor for us to undertake that fundamental review. In relation to Yanchep-Two Rocks, it's got a shorter horizon, so it's got an expiration date of 2030 based on the rate of growth that we're currently seeing in Yanchep-Two Rocks at the moment. We're likely to receive the contributions ahead of time than that 2030, and so we're actively planning now as to how we can commence the preparation of a new DCP for Yanchep-Two Rocks. Again, this work in the community facilities plan is going to inform that. So whilst we are not necessarily going to wait for this to be finalised, we're looking at project planning and programming the two different tasks for each DCP so we can start moving on those as quickly as we can.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 4.8? Okay, I'll go with Councillor Coetzee first.
Thank you. I had 4 questions. 3 is already asked. Thank you for that. The one I have is, can administration provide the current subdivision clearance percentages for Alkimos, Eglinton, Yanchep and Two Rocks so we can understand how close each suburb is to triggering facility delivery?
Ms Davis.
Thank you for that very detailed question. I need to take that question on notice. Thank you.
Mr Lee, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, only to say, as Ms Davies said, we can take that on notice, but it is something we should be able to provide some guidance on, looking at the balances in the DCPs as well. The expenditure, we should be able to get a bit of an idea of what the growth's been like in those areas.
Thank you. Councillor Parker, did you have a question?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Wholly funded. While I would love this to happen, I'm just starting to question it. An example question, the Alkimos District open space at the moment, I know the local member is starting to push already for that, but without any funding promises. So where we've got this regional open space, do we have any type of funding that we have been told that we can possibly access? And if we do go ahead and build it, because I know that it is needed, and we don't get wholly funded, what do we do?
Ms Davis.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question, Councillor Parker. So the Alkimos Regional Open Space is something that we would recommend should attract significant external funding. So the regional open spaces, particularly the playing fields exactly, often require us to implement a level of service that will service elite level sports, and those elite level service provisions are attracting both local but predominantly state, national, and what we're experiencing a lot of international events and usage on those. So that's why we suggest that those facilities should be predominantly externally sourced. Where will that funding come from has not necessarily been clear, given that we have had a funding pause on CSRFF and community nightlight funding. But yeah, being a regional and attracting that visitor economy to it, that is where we would have an advocacy program, and of which the Alkimos Regional Open Space is on the city's current advocacy platform. So that would be the number one thing that we would be advocating for with that local member, and I know those conversations are in train. The Alkimos District Open Space, that actually would fall into what we suggest is where council would target their funding, their municipal and reserves and developer contribution funding, but also still seek that external funding, because we know we are still trying to provide lighting and women's change rooms at these facilities to meet those community needs.
Thank you. Councillor Parker.
Just to follow up to that, the pause on the funding. So when we were told that we're going to have a pause on the funding, was any length of time given to that pause, when the pause would no longer be? Because obviously we're looking at a 10 or a 20-year plan, whatever that might be. So I just feel it's really important for council to understand. And I know it might be a difficult question because I don't know if you were given the answer, but how long is that pause actually going to last for? Because obviously that goes to what we are putting into our long-term financial plan.
Ms Davis.
Thank you for the further question. There is no clarity yet, and we will continue to seek some clarity around where there may be further funding supports from external sources. We do have a little bit of confidence in that the report that's in front of you tonight is seeking council's endorsement to go out for consultation, and then it'll come back, and perhaps we may know a little bit more by the time we're sitting with you in forum in August 2026, so I might be able to answer that in a few months' time.
Thank you. Councillors, questions? Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick one. On page 227, 227 through to 230, even with my glasses, I actually can't read this. Could we have this blown up to an A3? Because that is just one blurred 4 pages. Thank you.
Ms Davis.
Yes, we will, and we will also ensure that that is provided in an accessible format when we're doing consultation as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a number of questions. First of all goes to the formatting on the costs and timings on page starting 168. And I'm just wondering, there's yellow squares and one line on each is darkened. I'm wondering what the darkened squares indicate.
Ms Davis. Oh, Mr Starwitz, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor, through the Chair. Thanks for your question, Councillor Figg. To clarify, the darker colour is where the report recommends that the facility be delivered. That is when the trigger for that facility is required based on population growth. The lighter yellow colours leading up to that are the time where we would commence planning and progress through concepts and detailed design phases.
Councillor Figg.
So subsequent to that, why are there some where the dark squares are at the beginning, some are in the middle? Yes, middle and beginning.
Mr Storwitz.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks again, Councillor Figg. I think that the main one where the darker colour is at the beginning is the regional community hub in Alkimos. The report's indicating that that facility, based on population growth, is essentially required now. But obviously, as we're in 2026, we need to still progress our planning work for that, and we are in needs and feasibility stage for that project at the moment. I think the regional open space facility, which is the one where the trigger comes in the middle there, had consideration to, the city's capacity to realistically plan to deliver that facility alongside other facilities that are identified in the plan. But obviously the only thing I would add in relation to these timings are they're indicative only. They recommend a trigger or a delivery timeframe based on population growth. And we will have to have regard to a number of other factors to determine the actual time of delivery of these, including DCP timing, confirmation of funding models and more detailed needs and feasibility planning.
Thank you. Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the answer to that question. I think that's that makes sense. With that in mind, has any work begun on this regional community hub, which is, according to our estimates, probably required now, given the population?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. So yes, the Alkimos Regional Community Hub Library Youth Precinct Performing Arts and Cultural Centre RFQ has closed, and we are assessing that in order to develop the needs and feasibility for that facility currently.
Thank you. Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor. If I go too long, do cut me off, but I do have a few more. I looked at the 2020 version of this plan when growth at the time was constrained compared to the population growth that we are seeing now. So I've got a few questions based on that. Can we have a comparison drawn between when facilities in this public-facing document were predicted to be delivered at that time compared to where they are now predicted to be delivered?
Ms Davis.
Thank you for the question. Yes, we will provide a table in the changes to reports that does a side-by-side comparison of those two timelines.
Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor. This one will be, I imagine, taken on notice, not to foreshadow an answer, but I've done some quick looks, particularly given that we have some items that have been combined, some that have been dropped off. But from what I can gather, comparing 2020 to 2026's plan, there's a collective delay of 25 years on facilities provision compared to the 2020 plan. Is that correct?
Ms Davis.
Thank you for the question. When we provide the side-by-side comparison, we will also provide a comment about the 25-year delay.
Can I just add something else into that? The 50-metre swimming pool and the 4 basketball courts and that we're building and will have built this year, I'm sure they were brought forward on our long-term financial plan. Could you include that in the data you're presenting, what projects we've actually brought forward as well, so that that's part of the consideration as well? Thank you. Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor. And to that comment, there are a few on here that were brought forward or have been brought forward in this one as well, just not in compared to the others that have been pushed back. Just to regional open spaces, is the city aware of who or what entity was the majority funder for the construction of Kingsway regional open space?
Mr Storwitz.
Thanks, through the chair, Councillor Figg. Kingsway Regional Open Space is a bit of a different example in that it's evolved over time from an area predominantly in the middle of nowhere to now a precinct of regional significance. and the city did do a master plan for the upgrades of that facility in the early 2010s, and progressive upgrades will be funded through a number of sources, including state and regional contributions through funding programs available at the time. But I'm not aware of the specifics of all of the funding that we've attracted. Thanks.
Councillor Figg, you have another question.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It should be the last couple. Is the city aware of the clubs which are based at Kingsway? Which of those clubs have a membership base predominantly from outside of the city?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. We would have access to the clubs that are called Kingsway Regional Open Space Home, and those clubs would have membership data which would draw upon who actually lives within the city of Wanneroo and who lives without it. Is this information, if I could please clarify through the Mayor, that you would like included in the changes of reports for this item?
Councillor Figg.
Oh, sorry, thank you, Mayor. If I could ask for that, yes, please, just to get an idea of what a regional open space is in practice rather than what it is supposed to be in theory. That'd be ideal, thank you.
Councillor Figg.
I'm all done, you're welcome.
Do we have Deputy Mayor Miles?
Just one that I remembered during Councillor Figg's questions. Mayor, Director Davies, could you also add in why, I always ask why, but how many other local governments have the amount of regional open spaces that we, for some reason, have ended up with?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Miles, for your question. And we have all been doing a little bit of investigatory work around the number and size of regional open spaces, both here in Western Australia and across Australia. And we'll provide that information to you in the changes of the reports.
Councillors, any other questions on item 4.8? If there are no questions on item 4.8, we go to item 4.10, response to petition PTO 1-226, request for upgrades at Arduin Park, Lansdale. Do we have any questions on that item? Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor, and appreciate the comments that the administration's made in the report about the size and the complexities of the park. The administration says in there that there is already supply of those kind of facilities, being a community barbecue, which I don't disagree with, 400 metres away. What level of communication does the admin take with our residents to actually let them know which parks in their local neighbourhood have those facilities available? Obviously, you'd assume that the ones that are going down to those parks on a regular basis are aware of the facilities that are there. But for someone new to the area or not familiar with the parks, how would they actually find out what facilities are available at which parks in their suburb?
Ms Davis.
Thank you for the very refreshing question, Councillor Rowe. The city is currently doing a lot of work on its website, and in an update that I received just this week, it's looking really fortuitous for this year, and we look forward to being able to provide that information. The police team have also been doing a fair bit of work around neighbourhood portals and having those available out for external communication through to members of the public, which will include that level of information as well. We are doing some work on our welcome packs that is provided, noted just to the, or not just to, but to the new citizens at this stage. So there might be another opportunity for us to get better communication out to the community about the level of facilities available to them in the local area.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
Thanks, Mayor. Final question. Subject to whatever council decides in this regard, is there any chance to have some kind of social media posts on the city's page that talk about the assets and facilities available at these parks? Because I understand that the one mentioned in the report, I think, is Monticello Park in Lansdale. But I'd note that Frigola Park is also within a similar 500 to 800 metre radius and has a really fantastic playground facility and a couple of the amenities that were requested in the petition. So I think one of the reasons we get these petitions, excuse the comment, Mayor, is that community is not exactly aware of all of those different types of facilities. So notwithstanding the work that's going on in the website upgrades, is there chance to also integrate some of this within our social media posting?
Ms Davis.
Through yourself, Mayor, yes, we will look into the opportunity for some social media around the assets available in our local areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 410? If there are no questions on item 410, we now go to item 411, Proposed Parking Law 2026, Community Safety and Emergency Management. Councillor Smith has a question on this item.
Not this item, Matt, just a general cultural thing. Are we having a break? You had mentioned at 8 o'clock and things like that. I don't know what's the go. Are we setting?
I got carried away, but let's finish community safety and emergency management, and we'll do item 411 and 412 and then we'll take a break. Then we'll have finished that directorate. Any questions on item 411, councillors? Then Councillor Rowe.
Sorry, Mayor, I must just be trying to hold up the break. My question, just to get the clarification from admin, because this is something that we consistently get asked questions about from our residents. The proposed local law that's put before us tonight, it doesn't intend to make any changes to the burden of proof or evidence that would be required to infringe violations of the local parking law. So, for instance, under both the existing law and under the proposed new law, if a resident were to see a violation of the parking law, take a photograph, provide that through to the city, that would still not be deemed as sufficient to initiate some form of legal action against the perpetrator. Is that correct?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. In short, yes, that is. You are correct. There is no amendment to the burden of proof in this proposed review of the Parking Local Law 2026.
Thank you. Any other questions on 411? If there are no questions on 411, we now go to 412, Proposed Public Places and Local Government Property Law 2026. Do I have any questions on item 412? If there are no questions on item 412, thank you very much. And we'll just take a 15-minute break. And we don't need a decision because it's not an OCM, so we'll take a 15-minute break, councillors. And we now recommence the meeting at 8:38 p.m. We now go to corporate strategy and performance with Catherine Harrison, Ms Harrison. And are there any items you'd like to speak to, Ms Harrison, this evening?
Thank you, Mayor, and through yourself. Corporate Strategy and Performance has 3 reports tonight. 4.13 and 4.14 are both standard finance reports, being the financial activity statement for March 2026 and the warrant of payments. And 4.15 is a proposed road closure for Griffiths Road in Sanagra. Happy to take any questions. I will note that, unfortunately, the CFO could not be here, the acting CFO could not be here tonight. He was struck down with illness, but I will do my best to answer any questions you have and can come back to you with anything I cannot answer tonight.
Thank you, Ms Harrison. Do I have any questions on item 413? Deputy Mayor Miles.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and I'm sure Acting Director Harrison will be able to give me my information. On page 696, it refers to 004277, which is the Alkimos Aquatic Recreation Centre, and it is worded as additional funds of $10 million required to continue construction. Can I just clarify, it is not additional funds, but it is just a part of the process to finish the funds. Is that correct?
Ms Harrison.
Thank you for the question. That is my understanding, but I will confirm with Director of Assets, Mr Singh.
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, that is correct. It is adjusting the cash flow, so bringing forward the funds to match the expenditures in this financial year.
Deputy Mayor Miles.
Yeah, my second question, my last one on this item, Director. Page 697, 004640, it's got the renewal of domestic waste management vehicles. Will be funded from the plant replacement reserve. Why would it be paid out of that reserve and not the waste reserve?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I need to check that one, but I think all our fleet is, when renewals are happening, they happen from plant replacement reserve. But I'll confirm that for you.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 413? Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. My question relates to page 691 of the agenda proper. Mayor, I believe this is the first set of financial activity statements that we have been presented post-inclusion of the mid-year review. So it's the 9th consecutive month where employee costs year to date are above revised budget. So I'll ask the administration, when are we expecting to see an adjustment to this negative variance as a result of the change that was made to the vacancy rate in the mid-year review? When is that expected change anticipated to occur? And what strategies are the administration employing to get this negative variance under control, given that it is now 9 consecutive months of being a negative variation?
Mr CEO.
Thank you. I wasn't sure. I was looking at Ms Harrison. I don't know whether she was super. She looked very happy to answer the question. But look, I think Councillor Rowe, we're not treating employee costs separately from all expenditure. So we know that we had some forecasting issues associated with the employee costs. Whether we got them right at mid-year or not, we're not going to be sure until we reach close to the end of the year. We feel as though we have more discretion in materials and contracts. So we're looking at both of those expenditure items to see if we can narrow that gap of the forecast deficit. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
Thanks, Mayor. When we reach the end of the financial year, just prior to budget adoption, can the administration provide elected members with a briefing note or a memo at that point in time that provides a 12-month analysis of the employee costs? Because I think there'd be some acknowledgement around the table that it has been quite difficult to get under control over the year to date, understanding that we've made recognise the need to adjust the vacancy rate at the mid-year review, but can we commit to be provided with an update in writing at the end of the financial year so we can understand what the ultimate result was after that 12-month period?
Ms Harrison.
Thank you for the question. I'm happy to go away and do that level of analysis with the finance team. I would add, I think, after the mid-year review process, in terms of understanding what fed into the budget process last year, we certainly have identified where there are opportunities for improvement. I would say that heading into Budget Workshop 4, if we look ahead to the next 12 months, we're going to be in a much better place to understand why it got off track so early and then what strategies we need to apply right from the start to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 413, councillors? If there are no questions on item 413, we now go to item 414. Do we have any questions on the warrants of payments tonight? No questions on the warrant of payments. We now go to property services. Item 415, proposed closure of Road Reserve, Griffiths Road, Sinagra. Do we have any questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, thank you, Ms Harrison. And we now go to item 5, motions on notice, which is coming from Councillor Bedford at the OCM. Yep. Item 6, late reports. It's in the supplementary agenda. It's item 6.1, the 2025 Quarter 3 Corporate Performance Report. And Ms Harrison, would you like to come back to the table? I thought we were going to put that one with you. So item 6.1, late reports, 2025 to 26 Quarter 3 Corporate Performance Report. Would you like to discuss this or are you happy to take questions, Ms Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to take questions.
Do I have any questions, councillors, on the corporate report? Councillor Smith.
Thank you. It's just a request for OCM. On page 17, could we also have an additional column for the percent of variance too, please?
Thank you. Any other questions on the corporate report? There are no other questions on that. Thank you very much. We've also got item 6.2, which is a late report, the City of Wanneroo Fire Services End of Season Awards Night. Do we have any questions on that item, councillors? Councillor Smith.
My question is, will the proposed $20,000 have any requirements on what it can or can't be used for? Thank you.
Ms Eliff.
There will be no stipulation under the civic events policy of what they can use the $20,000 for. It will be for them to provide their event how they would like to be it provided.
Any other questions on item 6.2? Okay, no questions. To be tabled at the ordinary council meeting will be a proposal for levying differential rates 2026-27. And we now go to item 7, confidential. So if we could just close the doors and turn off the live stream. Thank you. We're actually streaming, but the light isn't on. I now go to... it's just come on. Item 8, date of next meeting. The next ordinary council meeting is being scheduled for 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 26th of May 2026 to be held at Council Chamber, Level 1, Civic Centre, 23 Dundebar Road, Wanneroo. Thank you for your attendance, and I now declare the agenda briefing closed at 8:57 p.m.